Today we are going through a dance bag checklist to make sure that we are always prepared for our classes. At the studio, I've traditionally kept this list posted in our lobby, and when we get ready for show, I have an additional checklist to make sure that we're ready for that as well. With the diverse type of classes that I traditionally take and teach and everything, I actually have several dance bags. And I rotate it based on what I need. Sometimes I need a smaller bag so I'm more compact. Other times I need a big bag because I'm taking multiple classes back to back, or I'm going to be teaching several back to back, and I need to make sure I have all of my gear with me. We obviously want to have our leotard and tights and all of that stuff already on. A staple with that becomes also having proper cover up gear. It doesn't matter if it's summer and it's crazy hot outside or the middle of winter, it's proper form for dancers to always wear cover up gear to and from. Even if that means it's shorts over our tights and leotard and stuff like that, it's just a proper habit to get into. And so you want to make sure that you have that on already, but space in your dance bag so you have the ability to tuck that away when it is time for class. Another item that we should have would be our alignment band, or if your studio permits, a skirt. Things like that should be either on or in your dance bag, ready to go. Each of my dance bags, I purposely get different little pockets everywhere in there so everything has a home. And so things like the alignment band or skirt, it's always great to have that in a designated location so you're set and ready to go with that. Another thing that should never ever be forgotten is water. Always make sure you have room for your water bottle in class. If that means you carry it, cool. If you can clip it off to your dance bag so you don't forget it, also awesome. Some of you have seen my water bottle. This thing is pretty big. So I will often just carry mine outside of my bag. A few of them I can tuck it into, but water is a huge thing for class. And so you want to make sure you have that. We'll go into more logistics about the whole water thing on another day, but you want to make sure you have that ready for your dance bag. If you're doing multiple classes and the studio permits, you may want to have a snack. Now, in between back-to-back classes, that's not always a guarantee, but if there is the ability or your teacher allows you to, it's not bad to pack a snack and make sure that it's not a messy one because you don't want it exploding in your dance bag and you don't want anything that could create allergy issues for anybody else. So always be a bit aware of what you're packing with, and again, be respectful if you are not allowed to have a snack at that point. I always suggest pack extra bobby pins. Your hair should already be prepped for class in a bun, in a ponytail, whatever your class is entailing. If you're going from ballet to hip hop, you probably want to have your hair done appropriately for that class. So you probably want to be able to take that bun out super quick, or vice versa, to toss it up into a bun. At either rate, having extra bobby pins is a huge thing. You never want to be caught having your hair all over the place because we want to make sure that our hair is where it belongs, because that's how we practice for shows in the long run. Along with that comes spare ponytails, scrunchies if you're permitted to have a bun like that, things of that nature. You always want to make sure that you're able to secure your hair and not run the risk of having your hair rubber banded in class. Those are a little gnarly to be taken out later on. I want to make sure that at least our dancers, but any dancers in general, should always pack a pen or pencil, and a notebook. Even if it's just a little notepad so you can take down little notes and then convert to a bigger one later, whatever it takes to get the job done. My level dancers know that we do a lot of notes. Some teachers encourage you to write it in class. Some ask for you to wait until the end of class. That is depending on your teacher. If you're not accustomed to certain shoes yet, or we've been dancing for several hours, our feet tend to get blisters. So you always want to make sure that you have a first aid kit so that way you are ready to take care of that the second it happens, obviously class permitting. So I always keep electrical tape. I personally prefer electrical tape over medical tape for my feet because it does not slip off nearly so much. My other go-to would be athletic tape. This is more of a material base, and so it's a bit easier to work with when we need to conform it to our feet. I also keep the under wrap is usually in my bag as well. It depends on how condensed I need it. So if I know that I need to keep my dance bag really small for what I'm doing, these are my staples. With this, I can pretty much fix just about anything that I would need on my body in a pinch. Ideally, though, I also carry like antiseptic stuff, and I carry blister protection and a whole bunch of items in a kit. And this whole thing folds nicely into my dance bag, but like I said, if I have to condense it down, I always at least keep my tape with. I also tend to keep scissors in my bag and some kind of a tool, because when we are doing tap, you need to make sure that you have screwdrivers in order to be able to tighten them. This is your job as a dancer. This should not be your instructor's responsibility. Obviously, if you're on the younger side, you're probably going to need help from your instructor or your parents, and we totally understand that. However, the older you get, the more responsibility you should have for having these items. I also keep some spare safety pins. They're not great to use for fixing things because they can actually punch bigger holes in than what we would like. But if you absolutely have to, safety pins can sometimes just work a real quick correction until you can sew something. I think at some point almost every dancer has had like a snap strap or something happen that you're like, woof, and you have to fix it real quick and then sew it later. And so just having general safety pins is kind of helpful. For our dancers who are on demi point or point work, my philosophy is if you're old enough to be in those classes, you are old enough to be maintaining your own shoes. I want those dancers to learn how to sew and how to properly maintain their shoes. So at that point, you should have your scissors. You should have a spare ribbon kit. You should have the elastics that you need. You should always have your thread or floss, depending which method you prefer to use. You should have your needles. All of that stuff should be in your dance bag. It should never be a, hey, mom and dad, can you go fix this for me? You should be able to, A, make sure you've gone over the checklist that your shoes are in proper order prior to class. And then if something crazy happens in class, you at least have the ability to have your kit on hand to correct it when deemed appropriate. I also will keep baby powder in my dance bag because you never know. Baby powder can be great for those of us on point to help reduce some of the friction that happens, which in turn the friction causes blisters. It can also just be great for like sweat in general, or if you need to touch up some makeup. The possibilities of baby powder are endless, so long as obviously you don't have allergies to certain things. Then you have to keep that in mind. I also always keep lamb's wool in my dance bag. I prefer lamb's wool over gel pad, but I still keep the gel pads in my dance bag because the lamb's wool allows you to conform to your foot a little bit better than the gel does, but it depends again on what I'm doing. So sometimes I may need one or the other. I'm always trying to make sure that I'm prepared. I also keep a towel. It's just a little towel, but it's enough where if I am crazy sweaty in class, I at least don't have to be super nasty. So I keep a towel in my dance bag just to make sure that I have some means of trying to air off. Towels are also great though if you need to stretch. It's a good way to warm up your neck or your feet if you ever need to. So you have that as an option. I typically don't use my towel for both purposes though, because I also carry my TheraBands. I also carry my TheraBands in my dance bag, so I usually don't have to use it in that purpose. For anybody who is doing hip hop or classes that entail floor work, we also strongly suggest that you have sweatbands with. They're great for your wrist. You can use them a sweatband on your head. They're kind of like leg warmers, and it helps to warm up your wrists, which leads me to my next point. Leg warmers, if you're permitted to wear those in class, have them. You never know. They keep your muscles warm. They're not just a fashion statement. They serve a purpose, so that way you're less likely to have an injury. And for the classes that allow it, if you can, knee pads. I don't actually pack knee pads in my dance bag because most of the classes that I do, I'm not allowed to typically wear knee pads because we have to be able to dance without them. If you are allowed to or you have to for some reason, that's something you should be discussing with your dance instructor prior to class. Last but not least, we should all make sure that we have deodorant in our dance bags. Now, this dance bag checklist is geared for people of all ages. And so, obviously, not everything is applicable. I don't expect pre-dancers to be packing deodorant in their dance bags. But the thought is there so that way you are prepared no matter what stage of your dance career you are in, no matter what your age is. We want to make sure that you are ready. And especially the deodorant one. Nothing can be worse than all of a sudden being stuck without it. And so it's just something that's good habit to keep a spare of in your bag. I hope this helps in organizing some of your stuff and gives you a little bit better idea as to why you should have some of these items. Again, it's always better to be safe than sorry, and especially as dancers, much of what we do is about taking on our own responsibility and not passing that off to others. I will see you tomorrow with some general rules that we all abide by in the studio. I will see you then.